native video message. And now I'll pass the floor to our moderator for Roundtable Discussion 1, Mr. John Arnold Siena, Deputy Director of the Senior Secretariat, to provide a few words on the video. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ling. That was a very engaging video on how we use technology, AI in particular, in supporting the students' learning, but especially in making sure that our students are engaged with the material that they're learning, while at the same time making sure that they make connections. The learners are making connections with what they're learning, and that's how AI can actually potentially enforce and reinforce our students as well as our teachers. But anyways, going to our business this morning, I would like to welcome everyone to our Empowering Minds Roundtable on Generative AI and Education in Asia Pacific. So today we gather to explore the transformative potential of generative AI in the field of education across the Asia Pacific region. And as we embark on this journey, we recognize that we stand at the cusp of remarkable technological revolution. Generative AI, with its ability to create, adapt, and personalize content, has the power to reshape the landscape of teaching and learning. It offers a promising array of tools and solutions, such as those that have been presented by Dr. DeSerbo in the video, that can enhance educational experiences both for educators and students. However, we do recognize that there are challenges and risks that come with this generative AI. So in our first roundtable discussion, we will focus on the emerging landscape. In the words of Dr. Farial, let's take stock of what's there worldwide, globally, of generative AI and education. We will delve into the potential solutions and good practices that are currently being explored in the Asia Pacific region and beyond to integrate AI into teaching and learning. So our esteemed panelists, who are experts and thought leaders in the fields of education, technology, and AI, will share their insights, experiences, and research findings. So we are joined today by these four wonderful experts. Our first speaker, I will introduce them first, all of them, so that we'll have a smooth discussion later on. Our first speaker is Dr. Yu Lu. He's the Director of Artificial Intelligence Lab, Beijing University. And as you have seen, he is the author also of the book on AI and learning. Dr. Yulu received his PhD from the National University of Singapore in Computer Engineering. He is currently an Associate Professor with the School of Educational Technology, Faculty of Education, Beijing Normal University, where he also serves as the Director of AI Lab. He has published more than 80 academic papers and served as the track chair of PC member for multiple prestigious international conferences. Before joining BNU, he was a research scientist and principal investigator at the Institute for Infocom Research, A*STAR, Singapore. His research interests mainly sit at the intersection field of artificial intelligence and education. Our second speaker is Dr. Kenneth Lim, YT Lim, Senior Education Research Scientist, National Institute of Education, Singapore. Singapore is well represented here. Dr. Kenneth operates at the intersection of neuroergonomics, the learning sciences, and cognitive psychology. In 2023, his team was invited to share their work during UNESCO's Digital Learning Week in the session on preparing students and teachers for responsible use of AI. And he also facilitated the workshop in that session. In the same year, Kenneth was also invited by the World Bank to participate in Members' Day of the Education Alliance in discussions on the sustainable use of culturally appropriate technologies and low-resource contexts of learning. Our expert number three is Dr. Natalie Lau, Executive Director, App Inventor Foundation. Dr. Natalie Lau is the Executive Director of the App Inventor Foundation, nonprofit empowering students of all backgrounds to create mobile apps which uplift their communities. She received her BS and PhD from MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory for her research on AI education and inclusivity. At MIT, she co-created and taught MIT's Deep Learning Practicum course and led the trajectory team for MIT's Inclusive AI Literacy and Learning Project. Our fourth panelist is Bethany Drake Maples, founder of Atypical AI Fellow, Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. Bethany is a recognized leader in the field of AI for education. She has a strong track record of developing AI technologies for learning, and her research extends to various labs at Stanford, and she's a fellow at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. A published expert and esteemed speaker on AI, education, and intelligent social agents, she also advises international humanitarian and economic organizations. Her teaching experience spans underserved communities worldwide, from Uganda and India to Mexico. Bethany is a New Zealander, bringing a global perspective to her work. So we begin our first panel discussion, a roundtable, with Dr. Lu's presentation on his research and practice of AI and education. Dr. Lu, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you to having me here. My great honor to join this event. And today I'm going to briefly talking about the research and practice of generative AI for education, mainly in the context of China and Asia Pacific area. And let me try to help me to go to the next slide. Okay. So, in China, we actually already have some policy. Back to 2017, China State Council issued new generation of artificial intelligence development plan, and it's trying to accelerate the application of AI throughout different vertical domains, of course, including the education. And in this plan, we are trying to implement the AI infrastructures and technologies first. And after that, we are trying to develop the new services, the new applications to build a smart society, especially for the education. And because, the ChatGPT released last November, so China start to issue some new policy, management policy to support and meanwhile regulate the generative AI. So it supports the booming of the generative AI technologies to create new opportunities and for the economics and the social development. And meanwhile, it's trying to show some concerns that generative AI would brought some potential issues as the spreading of fake information or some data safety issues. So all kind of this policy is trying to help the AI to better improve the society and education. So, AI already influenced education for a long time, since maybe around 7 or 8 years ago, including the building the learning environment, building the learning assessment tools, building the different management systems for the schools and universities. And meanwhile, for example, in China and in some other many countries, we're already trying to implement the AI courses into the K-12 schools. So in the April 2012, So nowadays they already have a lot of great models or some foundation models. So now the research team, 2019, is trying to build APIs using the large models. That is minimize the cost of the video, the scaffolding feedback or instructors, the interview of the APIs. And another is like using some foundation models to build a system, for large learning. Certainly, for example, Chinese language learning, we can use different foundation models to generate the image for different characters. When the Chinese has many different meanings for that character, so we can generate different images, different resources for the system. And actually, it's efficient and low cost. But here we have not only ChatGPT, not only before, where we have some many other places. For example, in Japan, which is developed by a company in China and in Japan. What I'm talking about is just a research part, or system or processing. But actually, we have some more mature system platforms today, especially in China and in the Asia Pacific. Okay. For example, one and whenever Beijing has a very high quality education program, China, but well, in this area, many like we have many rural schools that teacher request to build a lesson plan to help them to prepare the resources for the teaching. So we actually build this platform try to use the large model to provide the lesson plans, the resource for the teacher to prepare the model. So the platform actually collects instructional contact, teaching objective, and topic, and based on contact information, platform data prompts performing to each element of the task design. And these are like prompts into the diagrams, and then the platform will that each individual teacher for their activity. And the platform also aggregates the different resources and to help to matching the lesson plan and then build the entire class resources for each teachers. And meanwhile, the teacher can also manually improve the lesson plan resources if they want. Okay, so this is one practical example. Another one actually, we're already trying to give the classes in K-12 schools all over the country. So we need to actually have different resources, teachers, and platform prepared. So, but currently we don't have adequate such kind of platform and teachers. So we firstly build the curriculum that is specifically focused on the AI, including the generative AI, that is trying to bridge the Chinese national curriculum and meanwhile some international curriculum like the US ones. So we build some AI curriculum specifically for the Chinese context. And meanwhile, we are trying to build some platform. This platform is giving the chance for the teachers to use the different modulars that can easily implement some AI applications in the class. And we also developed some generative AI teaching and learning resources. And actually, some of the resources is implemented in the desktop version, mobile version, and also in some. For example, we have some Chinese version WhatsApp called the WeChat. So we implemented on the WeChat mini program, so the teacher and students can easily access these resources to learn what is generative AI, to learn what is some basic idea, the concept of AI. And I just give you a very quick demo. Yeah, so this is actually a very, very simple and introductory courses for students to learn what is generative AI. So the students actually can log into the system by WeChat or by some mobile phone or by the desktop. And then he can just simply drawing what he wants. Maybe here some students drawing a mountain and drawing some trees, drawing some forest. And then if he satisfied his work, can just click the submission button, and then we call some generative AI model to generate some images based on what he has drawn. Yeah, and then he can actually select the different styles. For example, the traditional style, the scientific fiction style, or the cartoon style. Then actually the system start working and then generate some of the paintings or drawings based on what he has drawn. For example, this is a kind of traditional, like the Chinese traditional painting, and the student can see what the generative AI can help him to for working on the painting, and also he can maybe try some scientific fiction style, and then the system still working, and then drawing some more inspiring paintings or images to help the students to understand what is generative AI can do. And the last one is like the cartoon style. The cartoon style maybe is more adorable, maybe it's more easy to understand. So this one is the cartoon style. It's very some pink trees or some blue mountains, whatever. So we just use this kind of style or the tools to help the students to understand what is generative AI can do. And actually, this is only one example. We built multiple different examples. For example, students can draw some simple lines, and then choose a style. The system can generate different music, sound, different multimodal resources for students. So using this way, we're actually giving the introductory courses to the primary school students. Okay, so this is some of the examples. Yeah, also we have done the teacher training for over 3,000 teachers in China to help the teachers can teach the AI courses at the beginning. Okay, so this is some of the book that summarize what we have done, and also this is a book talking about the AI in learning. I work with Haneli Niemi, who is a very well-known professor in education domain, and also Roy P, who is I think Bethany know him very well. He's a well-known expert in the learning science, and I'm mainly working in the AI domain. So we work together for this book. And actually, you can download it for free because it's open access. All right? Yeah. Thank you. I just sorry, I just running out of the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lu, for that very interesting presentation. Thank you for sharing with us how China has responded to the coming of ChatGPT and for setting up policies within the country as well. But very interesting also is how your group is you yourself are doing research in order to develop solutions for education and make teaching and learning processes in the classroom more interesting. So thank you very much. Let's proceed to Kenneth, who has a very interesting presentation as well, moving from just using AI and technology in the classroom, but pushing it forward to the affective domain of teaching and learning process. Kenneth, the floor is yours.
Hello, colleagues. Good morning, and I'd like to thank leading chef de section de UNESCO and also Simeo colleagues for affording all of us the opportunity to come address you and share with you our work today. Thanks also, John, for the very kind introduction, and to Victor for setting the stage and setting the bar very high. So without wasting further time, I'd just like to, I'm from the National Institute of Education in Singapore. We are the sole teacher education institute in Singapore because of our size. And today I'd just like to share with you a couple of examples of the good work that the teachers in Singapore are doing, and some potential ideas that you might be able to take away. So the floral arrangement is a little bit intrusive. Okay, so I thought in the spirit of generative AI, as yesterday Vikas was talking about possibly in the future, a vision that we might work towards would be what he called general artificial intelligence. Anyway, so generative AI, but there's also generative human intelligence. So let's try to generate our own intelligence and I thought I'd just show you this very quick couple of seconds slide. And then I'm not going to ask for a poll of answers, but in your own mind, can you view the video, which will only last a couple of seconds, and then kind of like prognosticate or predict where I'm going with this video. Okay, yeah. So there's no soundtrack to it, so don't worry if you don't hear anything. Okay, the video is a bit jerky, but you get the general idea. I apologize for the slow frame rate. Okay, so we have this young gentleman here who is walking about and he takes a photo of something that interests him. Where might I be going with this? So in an effort to link back to connect the dots, so to speak, because this is technically the second day, although it's the first day of the roundtable, I believe Farrell shared this slide earlier. And Farrell, this was from your presentation. Yeah. Thanks, Farrell. So, Farrell in her slide, she talked about, capacity building and teaching and learning, which are the second and third. I would like to connect this with the presentation that my presentation in terms of some of the things that I'm about to share with you are connected with capacity building of teachers, as well as teaching and learning at the level of the student's experience. And just trying to connect the dots. And likewise, Benjamin yesterday, he showed us this slide, which he talked about the spectrum from awareness to competency to knowledge to integration. And competency, of course, relates to capacity building and knowledge, and so there's knowledge and integration. But again, I'm trying to link back to what other people have already shared. So the slides that I'm about to share are to do with competency. And then he talked also about AI literacy and upskilling of teachers. So AI upskilling for teachers would obviously come under professional development, and AI literacy would be in terms of teaching and learning. Okay, so here we go. Now that I've said all that, here's the actual meat of the presentation. So I'll just very quickly skim through this slide because this is just like a scope. And we basically my team works with teachers around the ASEAN region, as well as with local school leaders in Singapore and with teachers and students to design collaborative learning environments, which are technology mediated. I'm not going to go through each bullet point. So here are just some examples of students whom we have worked with. And you can see that many of the examples are to do with investigating environments around their own schools, within their own school campuses, environments which are familiar to them. This aspect of the environments being familiar to them is important to our work, which links back to the preview video which I showed you just now. So I'm not going to go through this very much because I'm happy to make the slides available. And this definition of generative AI has been, I mean, we've spent the first 1.5 days talking about it already. So Singapore stands on generative AI in education. Okay, this is much better. So Singapore stands on generative AI in education. I'm not a member of the Ministry of Education, so I cannot really represent them well, but whatever I'm sharing on this slide is already in the public domain from their website. So again, I'm happy to share the slides with you. So suffice to say that apart from these general policy statements, which are advice from the ministry to our school leaders and to teachers, if I can, one of the aspects which is not in terms of advice through policy statements, but some other form is the support groups, which is the last bullet point. And so teachers in Singapore are afforded opportunities for support both online and in person within school and among schools. So for example, they have things called network learning communities, professional learning teams, and a very active Facebook support group. These are all examples of, yeah, I mean, basically, I think one of the important ingredients for Singapore's success is that the teacher fraternity is very strong. And this doesn't really, it's not really a function of country size. So I know my country is much smaller than any of your countries. But if you, one possible takeaway might be to build the teacher capacity in terms of helping them connect with each other. Okay, then at our university, there's this whole thing here, which is very wordy. And again, I'm not going to go through this in the interest of time. Most of it is, again, some guidance statements to lecturers and academic faculty. Here are some pictures of, in the interest of teacher professional development, here are some pictures of how we have worked with, for example, teachers in West Java in Bandung, where obviously the technological infrastructure is very different from that of Singapore. But our work has been able to translate in a robust manner. And here are some more examples where we worked with, say, Hong Kong and Korea and the Indian subcontinent. Okay, now I'm going to go straight to the video which I shared with you. So basically, this video is an idea for it's more a provocation for you to catalyze your own possible ideas for what generative AI, building on what Victor said from basic normal. He showed us that wonderful example of the landscape generated from simple sketches. So building on that, plus incorporating elements of the Internet of Things and neuroscience. So what you're about to see would be the video. And learners using the Internet of Things, data science, and Gen AI to understand their own emotional states better with a view to developing empathy and environmental stewardship. Okay? And the IoT devices, which you can see pictures of, are deliberately primitive because they're conceptualized, designed, and built by the learners themselves. So these are young learners, much around the age of our esteemed guest Jia Xuan over there. So Jia Xuan, they're around your age, okay? Yeah. So this is a video which I'm now going to play to you. Okay. Okay, once we have this video, I'll end. So this is, I shall keep quiet. Okay, you get the general point. I hope there's not too much feedback and echo. So this connects with actually, for example, Bethany. Bethany comes from a university with a very strong background in maker culture. And this kind of connects also with Beijing Normal's work under Victor's leadership, where we have Gen AI being used to give learners the opportunities to express what they believe as the landscape depiction from an environment local to themselves. So it's kind of like synthesizing everything. And that's basically it, actually. The rest of the slide, yeah, earlier we had this. So you can see that, hopefully you can see that students were engaged. They were working they were managed to get immediate feedback because their physiological and neurological responses were being shown to them in real time. And they saw value in what they're learning because they themselves were responsible for the photographs that they took from around their local environment. And this basically is, I'll end here and I'll turn the time over to Natalie, who is going to give us a really exciting presentation, I know. Thanks so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Yeah, that was interesting how Kenneth's integration of AI has not just made the lessons interesting, but more importantly, also being able to connect to the students. And somehow he touched on student agency in allowing students to decide on what's important to them and pursue that particular path or project. Anyways, we move on to Natalie, who will talk to us very relatedly on the competency of teachers on AI and other things as well. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you for the introduction, John. I'm Natalie, and I'm representing both App Inventor Foundation and MIT App Inventor. And today I'll be giving an overview of, can I have the slide, please?
All right. Apologies. Due to technical issues, AI cannot solve this. But we have to move on. While Natalie is going to address the technical issue, I would like to proceed to our next presenter, Bethany. Yes, please. Thank you. Yes, hopefully. The slide deck is ready for Bethany's presentation. Yes, all right. This one is going to work. Right.
Hello. I'm Bethany. I have a couple different hats that I wear. I will wait for them to do that. I'm a fellow at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. I research at Stanford, and then I've also founded a company called Atypical AI that does what we call end-to-end AI infrastructure for education. And next slide, since this thing does not work. Okay, great. Hopefully this is interesting and short. So I'm going to talk about connecting policy with reality when it comes to generative AI in education. I will speak a little bit about the policy that I'm seeing across the EU and the USA. I'll talk about the realities of generative AI being used by consumers everywhere, including students, and then talk about the major tensions. Next slide. Oh, this is a bit about my community. As Victor said, I research extensively with Dr. Roy P. On my board at my company is Siobhan from OpenAI and people from SpaceX. And then I've worked extensively in the LLM world. I actually was the founding PM at Google Tutor, which is now distributed to over 500 million students globally. So I've implemented AI tutors kind of across the world, which has been interesting. Some of them have been successful, some of them less successful. You can ask me about that afterwards. Next slide. Okay, policy, very briefly. So we're seeing a lot of chatter in the USA thinking that the European Union's AI policy is kind of going to be the gold standard that's implemented across the USA. And there's specifically two things I want to note. Number one is it's not at all clear that the use of LLMs for under 13-year-olds is going to be allowed in formal contexts. We'll talk about how realistic it is to keep them away from that, but that is something important to note. The second is that the EU policy states that there should be no emotion detection in education, which is interesting because you could argue that that's actually like a core thing that like generative AI can do that was missing from AI interfaces before. In the US, there's some interesting kind of nonprofit players, including Common Sense Media and Teach AI, which are taking upon themselves to rate the AI education tools that are out there. So just two organizations to watch. Next slide. If we can. Oh, hang on, did I do that? Oh, great. What's possible with generative AI in education? This is a lot of words. You've already heard a lot about this. I'll keep it up there if you want to take a picture. But generally, I will just say that it goes from very light to very heavy. I specifically love what Arizona State University has been doing for years in data-driven curriculum design. And then obviously, there's a lot of chatter about AI tutors in education. Now let's talk a bit about the reality of what's happening with billions of users globally. So chatbots are not new. We've seen, a progression of them, and the new ones, yes, they use both generative AI and also just good old-fashioned like decision trees. But what is very interesting is that we estimate over 2 billion people, hundreds of millions of learners that are using what we call intelligent social agents every single day. So that includes, Xiaoi's, so much that it's still being used, Replica, now Character AI, and Pi, and other people are coming in. What's different about these agents is that they're LLM-backed, but they do deep user modeling, they do like emotion detection, and they're for entertainment. There's no rules in this particular space, and yet you're seeing huge learner interest in using them. Oh, 3 minutes left. Got it. Okay. And it's an interesting juxtaposition when you think about why AI tutors and assistants have failed in the past. Typically, AI tutors and assistants were very narrow. They were experts. But you have across the board a dosing problem where nobody ends up using them. They might be the perfect cognitive answer, but if none of your learners are actually using them, what's the point of deploying an AI tutor? Okay, so that gets us to our major tensions. Obviously, intellectual property is a really big issue. OpenAI had these great data sharing deals, which has allowed them to produce GPT-3 for Turbo. But a lot of the best education content creators want to keep their content separate because they're afraid of what this does to their economics. Second, anthropomorphization. So my research goes deeply into how people bond with AI agents and what learners do when they have a deep bond with an agent. We found that AI can actually be a last line of defense for student mental health. I've done many studies where Replica specifically was able to halt suicidal ideation for students when no other resource did. And the degree to which somebody believes in their AI has a lot to do with anthropomorphization, what they believe the AI is to them. at the same time, there are very few studies, if any, about how young learners end up bonding with and the social ramifications of them having deep emotional relationships with an AI. So, attention. I'm trying to make it click. It's not doing it. If you would. Thank you. And then obviously, finally, there's this personalization and privacy issue. I think we could all recognize that the thing that makes many learners drop out of education isn't necessarily the perfect math answer. It's the teacher's ability to scaffold their social, emotional, even financial issues that helps them stay on path. Now, if we want AI to do that, we're going to have to let it be very deep in terms of the sensing and the data collecting that it does, which is obviously in tension with the privacy policies that we're all talking about. Let's just be clear, billions of users are opting into that sort of personalization every day. And last slide, I think, if you'll help me. Okay, I think we can all believe that AI is already affecting education, but I will just say that I believe that mixed methods AI is probably what we need. We don't always need LLMs. We need the ability to model users deeply. We need the ability to do this in locations where there is shared devices and there's low internet access. And that means that pure LLM solutions are just probably not going to actually deliver the equity that we need. And that last slide, that's me. You can get in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bethany, for highlighting that while the potential for AI and other educational technology can be very enormous in terms of how it will affect education, but there are policies and risks and tensions that we need to be aware of and to be able to act on as well. So we finally have Natalie's presentation. A lot of discussion on teacher competency, teacher training, and capacity building, but I think Natalie would be able to cover that in her presentation. Natalie, the floor is yours.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Natalie from App Inventor Foundation and MIT App Inventor, and today I'll be giving an overview of how we consider empowering students as community-centered AI app developers through the App Inventor platform. Before I get started, I wanted to frame the work that we do. Our work is driven by MIT's motto, which is mens et manus, and that's Latin for mind and hand. Not only do we want to teach the theory behind CS, AI, STEM subjects, it's critical that we bridge theories and practice through hands-on learning by doing and real-world problem solving. A key learning theory that our work is driven by is constructionism, which is spearheaded by Seymour Papert, who was a student of Piaget's. And as he said, children learn best when they're actively engaged in constructing something that has personal meaning to them. So what is App Inventor? App Inventor is a free and open source web platform that allows anyone to make mobile apps. And the reason we focus on mobile apps is because it's the most accessible modality, especially for under-resourced populations across the world. We've been backed by over 10 years of research from Google and MIT. And we see that after just 1 year of learning, students become engaged as creators of technology and a mindset change, not just consumers. And bridging back to constructionism and mens et manus, not only are we teaching the theories behind app development and CS and AI, students are actively engaged in effective change in their communities by project-based learning and creating apps that are engaging with their communities. So our impact has been global for the past 10 years. These numbers are from last year alone. We had 9.2 million learners across every country and region in the world. And almost half of our users are from the developing world. And we only see that number increasing as more and more under-resourced populations gain access to connectivity and technology, usually through smartphones and mobile devices. So this is a really critical tool that we can harness to reach out to all of these people. And since the launch of ChatGPT 1 year ago, we've really focused on empowering students to harness the power of generative AI for good. And our team at MIT has done that through 3 main projects. The first one is Chatbot, which is a component in App Inventor that interfaces with ChatGPT and other large language models to allow students to make apps that utilize those technologies. And later today, you'll hear Ethan speak about an app that he made as an 8th grade student with App Inventor and ChatGPT. The second project is ImageBot, and similar to Chatbot, it interfaces all of our existing components for making art and canvas and drawing apps with DALL-E to do image generation. And our final project is a curriculum that is completely free called Data in Action, and it teaches ethical and responsible data science. I'll just give a quick snapshot of what that curriculum looks like. So in the first module, students learn responsible data collection and data visualization through an app that they create with their class to ask their classmates how they're feeling that day. And in the more advanced module, we have a very real environmental science example. So students are taking live lake ice level data from US government websites, plotting that into Google Sheets or a CSV file, and learning how to import that into App Inventor to critically analyze it, doing some linear regressions. And there's an extension where we have them put that raw data into ChatGPT, look at what ChatGPT says, and compare that to their own analysis and see what they gain from that. I also wanted to highlight some additional resources we have for educators. Over the past several years, we've been collaborating with the Hong Kong Jockey Club to create the Cool Think curriculum. And this, again, is a free primary 4 through 6 computational thinking curriculum. We've served over 1,000 teachers through our training program and 90,000 students, and it's won numerous awards. We also have many tutorials on our website that are very quick, meant for teachers without a lot of technical experience, where you go through a 30-minute tutorial, and by the end, your students have a working app that uses AI or ChatGPT. We're also one of AI for K-12's 5 recommended software packages. And this is an organization in the US that's helping create national guidelines for AI education. So we've also been working with UNESCO to create an AI competency framework, which Fariel has referenced in the past. I invite you to go to this link to keep up to date with our progress, and hopefully we'll have a full draft released very soon. But in the meantime, I wanted to share a capstone competency progression that I think is very important that we're currently discussing. So this competency progression is currently being called AI for problem solving. In level 1, we have problem scoping. And in line with the objectives of the UN, we want students to be able to identify and critically engage with problems that can be solved with AI that support human rights. And very importantly, this means that not only should they be able to figure out what problems you can apply AI to from a technical perspective, but they should also be able to figure out what you should be using AI for from a cultural, ethical, and logical perspective. Level 2 is co-design. So as many speakers have alluded to already, generative AI in particular is expected to outperform humans on a lot of rote tasks. So it's even more critical for students to develop skills related to collaboration, communication, working with others, and designing with their community. And level 3 is co-creation and feedback loops. Our ultimate goal is for students to identify as AI-engaged citizens. They don't have to come out and everyone is an AI engineer, but we want them to feel like they're a member of a larger AI-engaged community, and we want them to understand that AI product and process and legal decisions should be collaborative with public participation at its core. So by the end of this trajectory, we hope that students can come out saying, I can contribute to AI policy, and I can create AI products that help improve my life and my community. Finally, to the effect of creating technology with AI that can empower communities, App Inventor has an Appathon program that we collaborate with various regions, where we invite students from those regions to create apps that support problems in their community. And Ethan will share one of his apps later that was a part of our program. And for now, I'll play a video of another app from the summer. So this is a mental health journaling app created by 2 high school students. And it uses generative AI to do some pretty clever emotion detection in text-based materials. I will narrate. So these students are saying that they really want to support wellness, and oh, there are subtitles, sorry. So if you didn't catch that, you journal and write how you feel that day. There's some roses, which are positive emotions, and thorns, which are negative emotions. And after you submit your journal entry, ChatGPT looks at what you wrote and tries to figure out if you had a good day or a bad day. And that's what those various colored emojis are trying to show. So right here. And then you can also add other activities that you enjoy doing. And ChatGPT can come out and recommend based on what they know. Here today, maybe you can try baking. Tomorrow, maybe you can try hiking because it's a Saturday. And here they have external resources that they're connecting to. And they've created a very impressive suite of other features, such as this AI chat room and emotion memory feedback. So I'll pause the video now. It's also playing on the screen outside if those of you haven't seen it already. So I'll end here. Here are some links that I hope can be helpful to all of you. The appinventor.mit.edu link is how you access our free platform to make mobile apps. And there are also many educational resources there. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, for the presentation and for showing that and outlining to us how the competency progression for students look like. And hopefully, I'm looking forward as well to the teacher competency that you're developing with UNESCO. What's interesting to me actually is your work with the low-resourced areas. That's kind of very important for us, especially in our region. So we will open the floor now to any questions coming from the audience, from the participants. But I'd like to remind our participants to kindly introduce yourself and your organization and mention to whom you are addressing the question, whether it's to one of them or to all of them. And for the subsequent questions, please try to distribute the questions as well so that everybody can be engaged. You have a question. Okay, so we will give, Ethan will have the privilege of raising the first question. And then after that, and then that one, the third one, and the fourth one. Okay, in that order. Yes, Ethan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that about emotional analysis and how sometimes it might be a problem. So just wondering what's your opinion about whether if AI should be used in emotional recognition or analysis, or whether if it invades privacy. Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. I think that it should be, and I think the rationale is that when we're trying to do assessment, excellent teachers assess emotion as well as cognitive state in order to figure out what the best form of feedback is. And so if we hope for AI to even approach what the best teachers do, integrating that capability seems critical. That said, users owning their own data, their ability to kind of delete or control that data so that it is an asset for them is a critical aspect as well. Anything else to add?
Okay. Yeah, Kenneth, would you like to add?
No, I think I would rather have.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So we go to the next question, please. Okay.
Thank you. My question, actually, I started my question yesterday, and still I want to understand more about, I want to advance the discourse. I'm Khagendra Dakal from King Mongkut University of Technology, North Bangkok. It's based in Bangkok. I'm into education, applied linguistics, and technology. So, and my PhD is about critical thinking. I have designed a test of critical thinking, spending last 6-7 years. What I was working in, like, what are the critical thinking skills I was conceptualizing for the last 6-7 years, and all of a sudden in 2022, generative AI emerged. And I felt like my PhD was useless because now AI can think and the machines can think. So why I spend a lot of time on it? But when I'm reviewing my findings and discussing with experts like you in different forums, including in states and other parts of the world, I had that opportunity. And what I'm still struggling to understand is AI making people more techno-savvy and less thinker? Something I'm struggling with, and I want to hear your perspective. For example, one of the presentation I showed there, like, perspective taking is one of the critical thinking soft skill that I discover over my study. And when I just looked at the slide before, right before this, which particular task supposed to be done by AI and which supposed to be done by human was displayed there. And that encouraged me that, oh, this critical thinking skill that I operationalize are still human anchor critical thinking. So I would like to have insight from all of you on that. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Natalie, comment on that.
Oh, perfect, thank you. So I think I'll just give a very quick answer. I completely agree with you. There are lots of things that AI currently cannot do until we get to AGI, and even at that point, maybe there are things that it shouldn't do. One of the really interesting things I've been working with students about is we have this exercise where we have them think of something they want to do or something they want to make, and type into ChatGPT, how do I do this or how do I make this? And for those of you who've tried that, ChatGPT gives you something very, very good. But through that process, the students are learning, like, as a human, I'm identifying what are the important things to make, and I'm identifying what's the important problem to solve in my society and in my community. So although AI can help with part of that solution, humans are leading the effort in trying to figure out what we should be doing with all of this powerful technology.
Anyone else from the panel who would like to comment?
Well, I think after the ChatGPT emerged, I think the critical thinking or creativity or collaboration skills are more important, actually. That's all belongs to the 21st century skills, right? So actually, technically speaking, we still think the ChatGPT or foundation model is a probabilistic model. So we'll still have a lot of opening tasks that need the human to be involved. And for example, I give you a quick example. Nowadays ChatGPT or GPT-4 can generate codes, right? They can do the programming. However, we also have the programming courses in the university or in the K-12 schools. So do we still need to provide such courses after the ChatGPT emerges? Actually, the answer is yes, because maybe we don't do some teaching in the grammar of the language programming, but we still need to train the students to think systematically, to think critically, to build the students the capability of being an architect in the future. So we actually still need more critical thinking or some other skills to be better prepared for the students, right?
Yes, Ethan.
And I also have a comment. I'll give another example about like coding, and as he mentioned. So I think although like you can use GPT to now already to like help you generate lines of code, but then I think what I sort of envision is that like it's not either AI or human. It's like working together, I'd say. It's like an addition for human and AI in terms of like coding, because a lot of times I think you need to identify the problem first using critical thinking, and then and after you identify the problem, you need to like think of ideas on how to like execute the problem, and then in certain parts you can use ChatGPT in detail. But moreover, for ChatGPT now, a lot of times it only generates code with the right syntax, but then with the wrong purpose or like the wrong output for 90% of the times when dealing with complex issues. So we still need human to like come up with the ideas, and then also to work together with AI to solve coding problems.
Thank you, Ethan. Just for the information, everyone, we have invited the youth to representative to provide perspective from their end, and that's Ethan that's representing the youth, and he will have his presentation later. We move on to the lady at the back, and then someone else. It's okay. Then that hand, and oh my goodness. So I know this is going to happen, and then the one at the end, and then we have also online participants raising questions, so we have to manage this. Okay, so yes, please.
Hello everyone. I'm Sadia Gondal from University of Engineering and Technology, Pakistan. It was lovely to hear all of the panelists. I have a question from Dr. Kenneth. Dr. Kenneth, I was extremely impressed by the usage of low-cost, effective resources that you're using for your students. And I'm particularly very much interested in it because Pakistan is also suffering from a lot of lack of resources. So my request or question to you is, have you ever thought about drafting a collection or a collection of activities just like STEM does, so that, less developing countries can take benefit from it? Is there any draft or policy that you're working on for collecting all those activities and strategies? Is this idea in your mind, or is it already there, available on the web?
Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.
Can I know your name once? I apologize, but I'd like to address you by your name, but it's fine.
Dr. Kenneth, sorry, effective resources was the element of a figment of augmented reality and virtual reality. So I think that was the highlighting point. So could you please highlight on that? Thank you very much.
Okay. I've got one of the hazards of working in an academic environment is that I'm getting more and more absent-minded. So if I forget your first question, I'm going to briefly address the second question. So for augmented reality in low resource environments, basically we acknowledge that a lot of traditional approaches to AR have been very dependent on the vendor or the developer to create those resources. What we've done is we've turned the whole model on its head, where we have used certain freely available AR software which would allow the learners, in the spirit of the video that you saw, to actually annotate their environment in 3 dimensions, which can be done on the phone, on any smartphone. Yeah. So we can have that conversation later, because this event is not really about AR. Your preceding question would, yes, actually the webs, I do have, yeah, we are very happy to put the resources of freely available to anybody. And we have, one of the slides I showed was when we worked with a school in the Punjab, which is, yeah. And we were helping teachers there for a week with a series of workshops. This was pre-generative AI, but the spirit of what we do, as you can see from the video, I deliberately chose to show very primitive things which the students made. For example, using supermarket bought items such as sellotape and sponges and sandwich boxes, which they created their own. And this also kind of addresses the issue of data privacy, because what we are trying to do fundamentally is to open the black box to help not only help the teachers, which was my main focus on the presentation, but to help the learners open the black box of AI to develop their literacies so that they will have, it's more likely that they will have greater control and understanding of how the data is being used. So if they make their own devices, for example, the loop is quite closed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that's so Kenneth, you're putting together something that other countries can also.
Oh, that's always been our
Yes.
team's, yeah, because the Singapore education space is very, very crowded, as you can imagine. So I've always tried to have a more international focus. Yeah.
That's great news for, especially for Southeast Asia. I called the guy from the end. Yes, yes, please. And maybe, did I call you before? Yeah, okay, you're next. And then maybe we can go to the online participants after the lady at the back. Okay, yes, please.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Mo Qureshi from BSD Education in Hong Kong. Natalie, you mentioned the Cool Thing program. We actually worked on it a couple of years ago. Really, for any of the panelists, I'm just wondering, what have you seen as the role for assessments and AI, specifically more sort of subjective kind of assessments, long-form assessments, etc. What role are you seeing? How can we incorporate a lot more within traditional and non-traditional education settings? Thank you.
Who's ready? Okay. Yeah, Bethany.
Hello. Yeah, long-form assessment, I think, is a really beautiful place for AI to operate and is changing. I don't see that we are able to reliably identify if AI is doing essay writing. So, you've got a couple of different options here. You could say all writing happens in the classroom. Or you say, go write your essay out of the classroom, and then it's the job of the cohort in the class to grade together and analyze the AI's response to the question. So, in short, I think assessment is a really critical area for AI, and you have to rethink how you bring humans together and when and where that happens in order to utilize it. The essay as it was graded before is effectively dead.
Yeah, so building on that, I think with AI tools in the classroom, we're able to do a lot more complicated assessments now. Over the past few years, we've done project-based learning, and a lot of teachers say that's really hard, that's really time-intensive, and assessment is just, it takes a lot of time. But with AI tools, we're able to use them to help figure out what students are doing, pinpoint, like, here are the skills they're using, and teachers can use that as a summary to aid them in going through and assessing a bit faster. And that's how we're able to combine AI and do some more complicated stuff in the classroom.
Yeah, another example regarding the assessment is, actually we are currently working on using the foundation model to assess the teachers' teaching skills. So we actually capture some videos from the classroom, and we use the foundation model to firstly segment the teacher's teaching precise, and then we use some traditional model to evaluate the teacher's teaching skills and the quality of classroom. Yeah, so this is also another example.
Oh, okay, that sounds promising. Ethan, we have a very active youth representatives.
So I think like in terms of like how it sort of changes the assessments, I think one thing as Natalie mentioned is that like project-based learning, how AI could sort of serve as an assistant during the process, where somehow when students have any perhaps questions or like they're not sure what to do or get stuck in the middle of the process, the AI could just like it's there to make sure that the students don't get stuck and they can get through the entire process. And I also think in terms of assessments, I guess like maybe there might be more assessments on like soft skills, I guess, perhaps because like in some areas AI is like, because in some areas you just have to concede that AI is like slightly better than humans. So maybe I was thinking that assignments or assessments might somehow shift to like a form where we're assessing skills that students could perform better than AI. So yeah, that's sort of my perspective.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. Maybe we can have the last one from the floor because I called that already. Yes. And then we go to the online participants and we go back to the participants on the floor. Yep, please.
Good morning. My name is Sel. I'm an educator and a tech startup founder from Singapore. It's called EduTech Future. Very new, 4 months on the market. So my question is to Bethany. Thank you so much for your slide when you said that AI will help with the non-standardized assessments, right? This is a painful question for me as an educator first. So I work a lot with the students, K-12 schools and higher ed, generally, globally, in Central Asia as well, outside of this region. And I also work in the past 12 months a lot with the students with special needs. Right? Here in our forum, we talk a lot about the algorithm bias, right? So my question to you, Bethany, is how do we create the assessments that by default include people, not say youth or adults, just say people with special education needs in the non-standardized teaching environments? Because right now, I'm not talking about only the classroom. We do hybrid, we do online, we do outside of the classroom sessions that already proven the efficiency for engagement and the efficiency for learner outcomes. So I would be very interested in your response and your research if you have on this matter. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I imagine that everybody on the panel has some sort of view, so I'll be brief and then pass it along. How do we create assessments for people with special needs? So just as a baseline, you know, a lot of the data around what good behavior is based on neurotypicality and is actually like highly racist and biased. So I think we need to rethink what those behavior cues are that are linguistically built into these large language models. But fundamentally, from a design perspective, we need to do this permissively. We must have teachers in the loop, and ideally we should have those learners giving feedback on whether or not what they thought was happening is actually getting mirrored in the assessment. So this like design and implement without the end user in the loop is, I just think, a broken system, and we should not be building stuff, or definitely not deploying it in that way. Anything to add?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes. So AI isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. So we need to be bringing in students with special needs and teachers who work with these students in designing a specific model for that specific purpose.
So customization is important.
Maybe not so much customization, but more to use a very overused word, more inclusive. Yeah, because as someone I'm likely on the autistic spectrum, and I'm not very hot on eye contact with people, as you would probably have realized. if I were in a school that is monitored by the Beijing Normal University with teacher evaluation, I'd probably fail my evaluation.
Okay, thank you. Can we move on to our online participant? Asim is online, so can you open your... All right, so you can fire your question away. Asim? We can't hear you. Sorry.
Audible?
Is there... Asim, sorry, we
Audible?
can't hear you. Or is it our...
Okay. Well, I'm Atim Ijaz Chima from School Education Department, Punjab, Pakistan, and I'm the policy maker. My issue is that the large chunk of the population of my province, that is actually representing half of the Pakistan, has connectivity or access issues. So, how I can manage the access of my population, offline access of my population to the AI? Thank you.
Would want to... Yep, Natalie?
I think the question was about how do we teach AI to populations that aren't connected to the internet. Is that true? Yes. Yes. So in my work with UNESCO in creating the AI competency frameworks, we thought about this. Half of the schools in the world don't have connectivity to the internet. And we looked at a lot of unplugged activities that you could use. But I think at the end of the day, in order to prepare students for the future of work, they need to have access. So I think what the UN is doing with providing more access is extremely critical. There's only so much we can do with unplugged before students really need to be able to try out ChatGPT and figure out what it can actually do and what it can't do.
Very foundational requirements. Yep. Any other comment? Okay, we...
Maybe
Yes.
I just add a few points. I think another important issue is actually the AI education for K-12 is not only generative AI, because AI has a lot of traditionally important concept and system ideas. So, for example, the basic philosophy of machine learning, the basic idea of how to formulate the AI agent. But this is all a very abstract concept. So we must concretize the concept and into some exemplary applications. So, for example, in our work, we just build different modulars and resources that is trying to use simple ways to exhibit the machine learning, how the machine learning works, how the AI agent works. And then we actually put it into the primary school classroom and make the students experience those precise, but not the mathematics or not the technique, not the coding. Using this way to give them the basic ideas of what is AI at the beginning.
Yeah, okay. There's another one. Oh, Dr. Wayudi. Hello.
Yes, Kunjan, thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists for such a very wonderful presentation. So I would like to back to the assessment. In one of our session in this lecture, so one of our students said, he feel guilty for getting the job done very easily. So the question is about the grading or the assessment. For him, because I just key in the prompts and then I got everything. So how can we make sure that the evaluation process remain fair and transparent for the works written or sent by AI or say ChatGPT? So this is very touching because I just asked him why you feel so guilty because I didn't know nothing. So then my response at that time is okay. Well, we get everything from ChatGPT. So for our next step is how can we capture, how can we learn what provided by AI So that become to us, belong to us. That's my response to him. So again, my question is, for grading works or assignment created or assessed by generative AI, how can we ensure that the evaluation process remain fair and transparent? Thank you.
Dr. Yudi, just to clarify, your question is on ensuring in assessment and ensuring integrity of the response
Yes.
you see because of the chat GPT. Is that your question?
Exactly. So, my question is, coming from student reflections, because he just click, he just type a simple thing, but he get everything, and he submitted to the lecturers. So, he feel that it is unfair. So, how can we ensure the assessment process is fair to everyone?
Is fair. How do we assure that the assessment process is fair?
Box. What challenges exist in assessing and grading work created or assessed by generative AI, and how can we ensure the evaluation process remains fair and transparent? This is my question.
All right. So the assessment process is fair and transparent. Destiny?
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Gosh, there's so much there. I touched on it before. You have to assume that there's differential access to AI when people are not in the classroom, and so you have to, design assuming some people have used AI to answer and study, and some people haven't, right? You also need to make sure that when you are doing automated text assessment, that you've modeled like different users and you deeply understand that it's not going to be like an unbiased response. You probably also need a human in the loop to verify that. There's NeurIPS this year. There was a really interesting paper presented that showed that marginalized and vulnerable learners, if they got a wrong response to their correct answer, felt deeply threatened. Right? So we have to understand that if we implement assessment that isn't properly safeguarded, it can actually induce stereotype threat in learners and have very negative consequences for their relationship with AI going forward.
I think it's also about like having an inclusive like data set, I think, because you need to because a lot of times I think I've also like read I've also read something online that says, well, because a lot of the voices in ChatGPT are like the most dominant voices and are like the majority driven voices, and that means like for some minorities, like as she mentioned, they might not get the voice that they might not get the response that they expect to get. So then maybe that comes from like diversifying the data set in the first place.
Yes, so I think for me, it's making sure the systems are transparent and open to auditing by researchers and the public. In the past, when we've found issues of bias in models like Joy Boalawami's work and the Compass problem that ProPublica found, it was all researchers and journalists digging into what was freely available in terms of the data that the models used and being able to test on those models. So I think in assessment as well, of course, we want to protect student data and student privacy, but also we need to be able to let others audit what we're creating.
I would just say that trying to add value to the conversation that is already ongoing. I think if you happen to be a member of academic faculty in the tertiary education system in a university, which I believe the questioner was, then we need to make, in the spirit of transparency, I think the policies regarding the use of tools in inverted commas needs to be coherent, clear, and continually reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I can give a concrete example that we built some explainable automatic scoring model for the different systems using the generative AI and some traditional AI model, because traditionally the automatic scoring model just gives the marks and some simple feedback to the students, but maybe they are wrong, maybe they are not non-transparent, cannot gain the trust of the users. So we're actually using some explainable AI techniques to interpret the automatic scoring model, to interpret the assessment process, to give the criteria of the model, why they give these marks, why they give this feedback. So that will help the students and teachers to better usage of this system or models. Yeah.
Well, I guess the responses will already feed into our outcome document later. Okay, I think we have space for 2 more questions. I saw the gentleman in the middle, and then first. We'll see how long the responses will be, and then maybe we can entertain another one. But okay, and the lady by the post. All right, please.
Yes. Good noon, good afternoon. I'm Dave from the Philippines, from a private university. From the computer science perspective, or perhaps in the machine learning perspective, what are your thoughts on the future trajectory of generative AI, particularly concerning its impact on human emotion detection? To follow through and to have context in this seminar, how can policymakers proactively balance this trajectory with the integration of generative AI and some chatbot technologies in educational settings while ensuring ethical, responsible, and student-centric use?
Okay, that's quite loaded question. How do we break that down? All right. Okay. Kenneth.
That was such a, yeah, your question's very dense. So many questions within that question. I'm actually very tempted, although I don't think I will, because in the interest of time, I do want Ethan to have his. What I would invite you to do, possibly, I'm accompanied. I mean, if you want to hear my response, I am accompanied today by one of my colleagues who's in a much more capable position to. So just seek me out, and yeah. But I do want to give Ethan time for his presentation. Is there anyone else who wants to respond to the gentleman's question?
Anyone else? Okay.
So one aspect to consider is that you must have bias training in place for anybody that is going to look at emotion data related to learners. And we don't require that right now of most of our educators. But the deeper the data, the more comprehensive the self-reflection of those people assessing need to be. And that doesn't just include teachers. I would argue that includes the whole community. Because as we know, when somebody's diagnosed with a learning disability, it's often the community, the parents, the peers, that make that learner feel stuck instead of understanding what that means and helping them progress in their own unique path.
Yes, that side. We're done with that question? Okay. Yes, please. And then we have one, sorry, we only have one question from online that we need to entertain, and then I think we need to wrap up. And then if you want to have more intense discussion, maybe you can approach our panelists later after this panel discussion. Yes.
Good morning. So I just want to ask the possibility of using it in the community, since based on the data, I'm from the Philippines, a faculty from the Philippine Normal University, and we are thinking of how to use AI during the disaster. So Philippines is the first top country in the world in the 2022 when it comes to the disaster. And we have a lot of class disruption. And you are thinking of this disruption-proof education using AI. I hope our panelists today could see how this AI could be integrated, not just in a classroom, but in a community. If we experience 20 typhoons a year and address the disaster and lessen the learning and teaching poverty through AI.
Okay, so thank you. Ethan would like to go first.
Yeah,
Ethan?
so specifically for disaster, I've like looked at an example actually on MIT App Inventor, like another person did this, and what he did was that he was able to use ChatGPT and other web info to help forecast extreme weathers in a region that's like in like the next in like the coming hours or the coming days. And I think that's actually like for me, I think it's like a really, really unique idea because you sort of integrate AI to like solve natural disasters as like you sort of mentioned. And yeah, I think like this is an example of like an application where AI is maybe applied beyond the classroom, if that's what you meant by disaster.
I think Ethan knows a lot of App Inventor projects better than me even, so thank you. Another project I wanted to share was a community project built by an elementary schooler in Chennai, India. There was an earthquake and flood there a couple of years back, and she created an app that it wasn't super AI tied, but it allowed her to send an app to all of her neighbors and help gather resources that they could share and check in on each other. So in certain cases, small scale apps have more impact in disaster situations for communities compared to large scale, like national apps in certain cases.
Okay, this is one question which I would like
Sure,
to.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I've been. So if we were to break down your question into, say, a time frame, what Natalie just shared was an example of what could be done after or during the event, and what Ethan just shared was an example of what could be done immediately prior to the event. I was hoping that the example that I shared would be more to do with, say, building a sense of authentic community engagement and empathy of communities not directly affected with, yeah. So we could break down, I mean, again, that's a very dense question, but we could break it down into a series of skills at which level AI can contribute to. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Okay, for our final question online, we have Dr. Shirley Young from Hong Kong. Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Dr. Shirley from Hong Kong, Gracia Christian College, and we are a member for the UN Prime, the Principle for Responsible Management Education. And I'm teaching AI course in service operations. So I just wonder, because we just talked about cybersecurity and also assessment and the rubrics, and there's an ISO standard, it's called 42001 version 2023. It's talking about the whole, like the institution, how they can use the AI in different perspectives, maybe teaching and audit about the approach, how we can use it for creativity for the student, but also maybe how to protect about the privacy, all those. So, and this is about my research in the how to assess the higher education in the system. So I just want to ask about the panel members. Have you ever heard about 42001 AI management system? Is the ISO system has been implemented in some of our countries because this is a very pioneer, and I'm working on research on this one. So able to maybe collect more opinion from the panelists and also our participants. Thank you.
Surely you're asking about AI management system?
Yes, just like the ISO 9001 or maybe the QF qualification framework to assess the whole institution. So for higher education teaching and learning process, if the student allowed to use AI, so maybe the assignment design, the rubrics, and also education for the professor know how to using AI in a correct way. So for UN SDGs number 12, responsible production and consumption, if we are helping the student to use AI. We are responsible in a way how to use it. So the ISO 42000 may be a way to audit about the proper way, the procedures, how teachers' competency and student competency to link up together, and that will help to build a framework because we just want to find out a way how to do it after the 2-day conference. Thank you.
So it's like AI management, ISO in higher education. How it's applied in higher education. Because I mean, ISO in AI ISO, that's my first time to hear about that. But any comment from the panelists?
I have absolutely no idea, but I'll tell you how I try to figure it out, which is I would take the text from the ISO and I would put it into the GPT agent creator and I would ask for recommendations based on that.
Dr. Shirley, yeah, apparently this is something that we need to look up in the.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is possibly there may be other roundtables which where the assembled they would be in a better position because this is actually a institutional policy question which none of us, with the possible exception of the gentleman over here,
Maybe Dr. Lu can comment if there's any such system that's implemented in your university, in your institution.
Maybe we can open up like a research area. I think this will be the
Dr. Lu,
future.
if you have any comment, and then we go to the gentleman from the Philippines to make a comment and maybe a response. Yes.
Currently, I mean, for example, in Beijing Normal, we have some teaching management system that using AI techniques, but I don't know whether they are compliant with ISO standard or, yeah.
likewise with my university, these decisions are made by people who earn much more money than I do.
Beyond your pay grade. Anyways, okay, yes.
Hello. Yeah, I think the question is more into the quality assurance. Yeah, I guess in the integration framework in any institution, I think quality assurance should not be left out and that should be considered in all aspects in teaching and learning. So perhaps even if we're talking about assessment, there should be quality assurance in the use of or in the integration of artificial intelligence or generative AI, even in pedagogy, even in instructional designing and all of this. That means, to me, as an educational technologist, quality assurance should be embedded in any aspects of technology integration in teaching and learning, not to be treated as a separate component or entity in the integration framework. And I am not sure if many of us have thought of that when we utilize generative AI in assessment, pedagogy, strategy, instructional design, and even faculty development. Just like in any form of accreditation, where quality assurance is always embedded in all aspects of teaching and learning.
Okay, thank you very much. So QA, which merits for a separate roundtable discussion? Okay, as suggested by Kenneth. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time and we have to wrap up. But before we end, and it's very symbolic that Kenneth has been Ethan has been very active in engaging with us, answering questions, also posing questions himself. But I think at the end of the day, when in the midst of discussion and debates on the risk and benefits and so on, we have to always think of the learner. And at this point, I would like to give the floor to Kenneth Ethan, our youth representative, to share his thoughts and experience on AI. Ethan, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So I'll start with an interesting analogy about puzzles. So for example, I'd say that like the process of sort of like solving a problem with like AI, sort of like solving a puzzle. The first step is identifying the puzzle that you're trying to solve, and the second step is collecting the puzzle pieces, collecting and compiling, which are your essential tools in the process, and then the last step is to arrange the puzzle pieces together to solve the problem. So today here, I would like to give two examples of my apps, which is the Avid Reader app and the Storylize app. I'll start with the Avid Reader app. So then my sort of observation and identification of the problem is that I found that students struggle with finding the right book and often couldn't like comprehend the contents of it with depth. And also they couldn't sort of like sustain a reading habit like over time. So then here are some of the key, when ChatGPT came out, and then also when I got to explore MIT App Inventor, I felt like the missing puzzle piece was finally solved, because through learning about web forums, about MIT App Inventor, as well as tutorial videos, I learned how to like utilize ChatGPT in my app. And during that time, I think like when I was developing Avid Reader app, like the chatbot function wasn't there yet. So then I had to use like dictionaries to sort of extract the API. And then so how I used AI, I specifically used it in two different ways. The first is like I used ChatGPT to help generate a thorough introduction to the book. And then so that students could like make decision about like which book suits them better. And then the other key feature about AI that I use is like through generating reading comprehension questions based on the book that you chose. And then so specifically, I didn't just stop there by generating reading comprehension questions. To even enhance the interaction between the user and AI, I sort of like also sort of like used AI to give feedback to the user's responses to the reading comprehension questions. So then there is like an interaction between the user and AI. And then so with MIT App Inventor and already existing ChatGPT, that was how I sort of solved this reading issue with my Avid Reader app. And then this also later inspired me to develop more. And then as you can see in the right part of the screen, here my other app was like my Storylize app. And I also started with an observation. For a few of my friends and I, we were struggling with sort of painting and drawing and then sketching. And then so we had the right idea in place, but bad execution skills when it comes to like drawing or illustrating. So then this time, DALL-E Image AI was the missing puzzle piece that I was searching for. And then so when DALL-E Image AI came out, I sort of leveraged this technology into my sort of project. And then that way I could turn stories and text into vivid illustrations and cartoon illustrations. And then moreover, I also added ChatGPT as a side feature to help you provide you with ideas when you run out of ideas about stories or what to generate. And then so my concluding statement is that, you know, as AI technology develops, there will be like more so-called puzzle pieces or tools that were available to leverage. And then so with more of these tools, we can just use them directly by using MIT App Inventor. We can just apply them directly. And then so for me, I think the most important thing is like finding the right problem and also observing like what's the problem, and then also to arrange the puzzle pieces together to create like apps. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ethan. We would like to give Ethan the final say because he is the focus. He represents the focus of what we're doing, the learners themselves, and has shown us how AI can actually push Ethan and the other youth to use AI and just grab that agency aspect of AI as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for that active engagement in our roundtable discussion today. It's very awesome experience for me personally, but I can see that a lot of you are still having questions in your mind. And if you want to engage our speakers, our panelists, maybe during over lunch, you can engage them or during lull hours. So shall we give our panelists a round of applause, please? So we now close this roundtable discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, for your active engagement. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Mr. John and all the panelists. So please reminder that lunch will be till 2:15 p.m. So, and also please be reminded that so lunch today, the lunch buffet is actually going to stop at around 2 p.m. But please feel free to sit around the area. And we'll see you at 2:15 p.m. for roundtable discussion 2 on the benefits and risks for generative AI and education. Thank you. And also, please visit our exciting exhibitions at the back. So we have our exhibitions from UNICEF, CMIL, Galaxy Kids, and more. Thank you. See you later.